Listen, if you're a rapper and you don't live a fraction of what it is you chat about in your music, now's the time to come clean. Like now's the time to sort of just be like, you know what, I'm like, allow me in. I'm not that guy. Just leave me be, because we seem to be living in a time where, I reckon years ago, yeah, like in the 90s or whatever, like what people call the golden age of hip hop. I think there was a time where if you spoke a certain way on a record, and you went on like you're some killer or whatever it is, or you're some gangster, whatever it is you claim to be. I think there was a time where only other people who are like that would be people that would essentially come and test you. So if you went on like you were some gangster, you get tested by other gangsters. That's what it would be. And then it'd be a case of well, you are who you say you are, or you're not. And then you keep it moving, whatever. But we seem to be living in a time where now, I don't know, it's a case of like when I watched that video, that Rick Ross video, and it's what day? It's Friday today when I'm recording this. Rick Ross is not I see Rick Ross's response like yesterday, and when I think to myself, like, I get it. There is a case of like social media. They say it's a game, so it's a case of don't believe half of what you hear, or believe half of what you see. Sorry, and none of what you hear. I get that. So I guess there is an element like his response is, I guess it's a case of, it's a strategic thing in the sense of, let me make something out of it. Me personally, I wouldn't even have responded. Do you know what I mean? What do you say about the situation? Like it's in literally someone come and put it on you. And again, I'm not saying that Canada's not a rough place. I've never been there. However, what I will say is this: when I can go from my own experiences when I'm coming to altercations, when I look at the video, like the people in there don't strike me as some I don't know, some made men gangsters. Like none of that strikes me, because one, if that was the case, I think it would have gone a whole lot worse. What I've seen is, when I watched that scenario, that's a scene I've witnessed many times after clubs where two people really don't want to fight, but it's a case of who can bark the loudest. And as soon as someone sort of, the other person responds in the sense of in like shows an element of fear, then the other person, then it kind of eggs them on to then be like, yeah, because they acknowledge that there's no real danger from this other individual, so now let me keep going. But it's a scene that seems to me that I've witnessed many times where two people who are really they're not that way inclined. Because for the most part, in fact, when you do get two people who are like that, there's a lot less noise. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, but like when you watch that video, and as I said, like from what I understand, most of Drake's Drake's fan base, like a majority, like okay, I won't say a considerable amount are females, and again, I wouldn't say that because of Drake's music, it's not hardcore gangster music. It's music for everybody. I think it was what's his name, Mos Def, who said that basically my man's music is basically, it's like shopping music. You hear it in the mall, and when you're going having a good time. You know what I mean? It's not. Do you know what I mean? If you go to a Drake concert, you're not gonna assume you're gonna get a certain type of people out there that are gonna. You don't think you're in danger. Let's just put it that way. So the people that are, and again, I'll say this. Like I'll definitely sort of give the Drake fans their props, because you know what I mean, they've had enough of it. they've had enough of this shit, and they've stood up for their guy. So shout out to you, man. But like I'm lost my point. Anyway, like the point I'm trying to make is that Drake fans, like when you hear that, you don't think shit danger. If you think about DMX's music, yeah, people are listening to that. There might be some way inclined where you think to yourself, you know what? If I go to that concert, maybe let me not go buy my J's, and maybe let me not take my misses. But with a Drake concert, this is a case. In fact, you probably go there with your misses and have a good time, this, that, and the other. So when, and again, this is like another pop rapper. This is Rick Ross, the guy who come out with Hustling. Basically, He named himself after an actual real genuine drug dealer who's called Freeway Ricky. My man come out as like, he's that guy. Do you know what I mean? He's doing this, that, and the other. Like, I don't know about you, but me, I was fully all the way locked in that Rick Ross he's that guy. Do you know what I mean? And it was funny because I remember when 50 Cent outed him as he was a prison officer, and it was a case of, okay, now this is. And I remember, I think to be honest, I think everyone let him slide. I don't think anyone really sort of went in on him. Again, it wasn't really at the time where social media was as big as it is now. Maybe if it was, it might have been a different story. But I'd say he managed to sort of kind of skate through. Also, Teflon Don was a sick album. Like, do you know what I mean? So that's another thing as well. One thing that's clear, like if you make good music, you can more or less get away with anything. I think R. Kelly's proved that. Anyway, I think, as I was saying, like I remember when 50 Cent kind of outed him, and it was basically like this guy's not who he says he is. Like, and a lot of these guys ain't. And I think it's difficult to understand when you're, I guess like, I remember it was a similar thing like with Ja Rule, because I just listened to 50 Cent's book not that long ago, and he spoke about how basically Ja Rule was a Jehovah's Witness, which I didn't even know about. In fact that he never actually lived in quote unquote the hood. He kind of lived in the suburbs, and then he just kind of adapted this persona, took on sort of, which was somewhat loosely based on DMX with a gruff voice and all this, that, and the other, all that, that hardcore shit, whatever it is. And then he's part of a group that's now called like Murder Inc., like, Murder Incorporated. And 50 Cent talks about how this guy was like, it was always going to come crashing down, because this guy was essentially like living a life, like portraying a lifestyle that he was so far from, that it was almost laughable. But again, us as the public, I don't know. I guess that's coming to, like, I don't know about you lot, but I was generally like convinced that, I don't know about you lot, but I was generally like all the way convinced that Ja Rule was, do you know what I mean? So but I remember 50 Cent said that, he said something like along these lines. I think, and other people said it before, where they said, a lot of these guys are pretenders. And you hear it now. Like, even sometimes with UK rappers, you hear that a lot of these guys are pretenders. They're kind of just portraying this kind of lifestyle. And again, like, now now getting into manhood, I understand that in the world there's certain types of men. There's guys who are cowards, and there's guys who aren't. Some of them are loud about it. You got loud people on both ends. You get loud, tough guys, and you get loud, weak guys. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. You get silent, tough guys, and you get, do you know what I mean? So it's the case of one of them things where, you get loud, tough guys, and you get silent, tough guys. Do you know what I mean? You get, sometimes you get people that, didn't even make a lot of noise, but they're ready, they're all the way ready to back it up, albeit there's not that many of those. And for the most part, I think those types of people, the loud ones, are usually younger. Usually, I think anyone that's ever been in a fight, or in any sense of any sort of physical altercation, like if anyone's ever been punched in the face, you learn to respect violence very quickly, because you understand that you're not bulletproof, and you understand, like, one, that shit hurts, and two, you understand that, especially when you leave school, you understand there's consequences. So there's an element, like, you get to a point where you understand, okay, I think eventually, people who are tough guys, I think they start out as maybe they're loud tough guys, and then slowly they then become more silent tough guys, in the sense of, okay, if I must get into an altercation, then yeah, I'll get into it. But for the most part, it's not worth it, because like they understand the dangers are real. Like, I always say that people who are so ready to fight are people who clearly haven't been in enough fights, or they've clearly not been hit enough times to get to the point where they respect violence. So I think, and I can understand, like, again, even like, getting into adulthood and dealing with people on a regular basis or whatever, I understand that it doesn't matter what environment you're in, you're always going to find these different types of characters. I mean, and so even when it comes somewhere like in the rap world, of course, there's going to be some cowards and pretenders. However, like, but I do think I think sometimes I do think to myself, at a baseline level, like, I get it, like, you're not, I get it. I get it, like, there's different levels of violence, There's people having weapons, this, that, and the other. And, you know, there's certain guys that are like, I don't care what you got. And we going for it. I don't give a shit. Now, I think at the baseline level, where it's man to man, hand to hand. On top of that, if you're someone like Rick Ross and you have paid security, one, either get better security. Like, there's a point where the Drake fans are just literally wailing on, but like they're just kicking the shit out of this guy. He don't even know it seemed like it was his first day. He's a very big guy now, which I think the only thing that saved him. But there's a point where they're literally they're just getting in on him, and Rick Ross is just. And I think funny thing is, at one point I thought, maybe he's like, you know, the reason why he's not jumping in to help him is because, you know, the other securities took him away. Like, this is protocol. You know, when, you know, the person you're trying to protect is under threat, the first thing you do, you get him out there. That's, you know, and as part of your job, you do what you can to try and sort of like fend off these attackers. But then you see he's there. The guy's still there. Just witnessing his. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, man. There's a case of. I don't know. I think that guy needs to. If I was that guy, I'd ask for a raise or something or a bonus. But like, it's a weird. And you know the funny thing is, you know these people in the videos are cowards because there's a lot of this shit like that. You want mate? That all of that nonsense, that flinching shit. And again, it's a case of almost as soon as either side really, you know, as soon as one with the loudest bark makes a noise and the other one flinches, now it's a case. Now it spurs them on. And again, it's a case of the way where they're in numbers. And I don't know, man. I think that's what I say, man. I think if you're a rapper, like, now's the time just to come clean and just be like, you know what, I'm not that guy. Because I think what's gonna happen is that people, and especially like, I think what will happen is like, because I reckon, because essentially what's happened is Rick Ross is playing the song, and then man are like, the fuck you doing playing this song, blah blah blah. So it's gonna be a case of now, if it's a situation that I won't be surprised if eventually, I'll bet you, in fact I'm gonna put money on it, that them guys who jumped him, who confronted him, let's call it that, I can promise you they're gonna get interviewed at some point. And they're going to tell their side of the story. And you're going to tell straight away that these guys have clearly never been in any sort of violence, because they're going to embellish it. They're going to this, you know what I mean? Everything's going to be theatrical. Even that guy that said he knows MMA. MMA, that guy. But it's a case of like, I reckon, so what's going to happen when another rapper or somebody else is playing the song? Do you know what I mean? I think there's an element where, like, when you go out somewhere now, I don't know, man. I think like if you're a rapper, you might get tested in it. Even if you are that guy, you just might get tested. So I reckon if you're one of them rappers out there that you know you're like a, like what they call it, like an industry plant. You know that your case of you look the part and you're selling the part. Just come clean now in it, or just slide it in your raps every now and then. Just say, yeah, no, I'm not really. Or at the very least, just get better security, bro. Like you've got the money, just. Get like at the very least, get like a gang of security, like get a whole team of security, because people can't even get near you in that sense. But I don't think when you're Rick Ross, my man who's made Hustling, Teflon Don, and said all this shit about this, that, and the other, like, I don't know, man. I don't think you should be getting moved to in Canada. Personal opinion. On that subject, I'll see this. I think in the last podcast, I said someone explained to me what's going on with the Drake and Kendrick beef, and I was like, I don't really know what's going on. Okay, so it's starting to come clear. Like, I think there was a time, I think someone said like one of the reasons why it's really sort of going off was because like a lot of people hate Drake, and he's been on top way too long, and it's like it's time for you to sort of come down a peg. And I think there is an element that is like true. I think there isn't like, I think that's natural anyway. I think any time someone sort of seems like they're just untouchable, I think it's inevitable that when they do, because I think it makes people feel better about themselves. I think when you see someone that's so successful doing this, that, and the other, even like, and I think even for other people that have made success in their own right, I think when you're seeing someone that's so successful and it seems as if they just keep do you know what I mean? You think to when it's going to end. I think eventually, if you're a certain type of person, at some point you're probably going to internalize that and then start thinking, oh, what's going on? Maybe I'm doing something wrong. So when they inevitably fall, you think, oh, okay. See, they flopped as well. So I don't know. I think there's an element like there's a bit of, I don't know. So I think everyone sips a little bit of hatred every now and then. But anyway, I think there was a point that was the case. However, it seemed as if I think this might be a case where, especially like with the diss tracks, I think there was a time where Drake was, because that's his thing. Like he'd make bangers, and make you look stupid, and he'd get everybody singing it. And it seems now he's kind of been beating his own game, which I think I'll give this to Kendrick. I don't think it's an easy thing to do because the song is sick. The thing is, I'm one of them people. I'm not a biased listener. Like for the most part, I listen to someone's music. I never really. To be honest, I couldn't really give a shit about celebrities or rappers' personal lives because I don't know them. I think maybe if I did know them personally, maybe that's different. But because of course, the only thing I know about their personal life only comes through second, third, fourth, third parties rather than from them. I kind of just I don't know I couldn't pay attention even I wanted to. So for the most part, I just kind of listen to their music. So I'm not like a biased listener. So I was never gonna go for for the most part. I think I know more Drake songs than I do Kendrick, but I wasn't then gonna go. You know what? Because I'm more comfortable with Drake music because I know more of it. I'm gonna side with him. It was a case of I'll listen to the song, which was good. That's it. So it's one of the things where, initially there was a point where I'm sure everyone did. At the beginning, everyone thought, okay, Kendrick kept responding, blah blah blah, and it was taking ages. And then of course it kind of just flipped. But now I think that it seems like it's mutated. With a concert, it's now and the video, there's a part where I think one of the things I was like, oh, okay, was in the video. There's a bit at the end, I don't know if anyone knows this, but so Drake's OVO team, whatever it is, his whole thing, I think the logo is an owl, is it an owl, like Athena's owl? I don't know if he's part of Athena's owl, but that's, I don't know. It's an owl. There's a bit at the end. There's a bit where Kendrick he's looking at an owl, and then he puts it in the cage, and then he walks off. And it's interesting because the owl at one point is when he's put it in the cage. Again, I think they were just lucky. I think this is just a little bit of a coincidence. But the owl is it's not just it's cowering, but it's very much aware that it's in a cage. And I think that was okay. That's and the thing is, I think there was a time where I think Drake was he tried to do the thing where let me make fun of myself by performing the song as well. There's a point where my man was screaming that certified pedophile, screaming it. Now it's a case where I don't know, and I think he's trying to do this, trying to turn the momentum to be oh yeah, sorry, it's a banger. I can't fight it, so let me just try and ride out the wave. In fact, let me jump on it as well. I won't be surprised if my man tries to call it truce. I would not be surprised if he basically, to be fair, at this point, that's your best bet because I think that's one of the reasons why I think Drake fans are so upset because it's a tune, and I think there's nothing. I don't care who you are. There's a saying where you say you can't help what you like. I think that's one of the situations here now. It's a case where it's a banger, and it's getting mad traction, and it's and the thing as well, it's not even as if Kendrick's just some any guy, and you wonder to yourself, is it a case where when it comes to the diss tracks, was it just a case where he just needed just the right or the appropriate contender to come and knock my man off his pedestal? Do you know what I mean? I think there was a time. I think when I look back at the Meek Mill, when the Meek Mill and Drake beef, I remember even then that was a situation. I think everyone thought that was going to be a clean wash, And for some reason, I don't know. I don't remember Meek Mill's fucking diss track, but I remember it being whack. Like it was going to sound about some Twitter followers or some shit like that. Anyway, and again, I don't think this ain't Pusha T done him and Common done him. But what they didn't do is they didn't start this. They didn't start this campaign of just sticking the knife in and just twisting it. Whereas Kendrick is literally, he's taken every single. Do you know what I mean? He's like, nah, he's come from his head. But it's not just that. He's now parading it in the streets. Do you know what I mean? It's now it's a case of like everybody, and it to a point where I tell you what, yeah, when you get people from Canada confronting Rick Ross and beating up his security cards, that's where like something's gone. Do you know what I mean? Something's then, I don't know. It's do you know what I mean? It's now gotten a bit personal, but boy, Drake's gonna have a rough year. All right. The other thing I wanted to discuss was the voting situation. Now, I'll be intrigued. Like, and to be honest, when I discuss this, I'm more addressing like the millennials, and I guess I don't know the other letters, but anyway, anyone born between 1980 and I guess 1995, I guess something like that. I'd like to know, like, 1, did you vote? And 2, who did you vote for? And because I don't know, because it seems to be like, all right, so here's what I'll say. I've always thought that when it comes to voting, I think it is important that I think voting is important. However, it doesn't seem. I don't know about you, but I don't see the difference. Like, I don't see the difference between Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak. Like, I don't see the difference between any of them people. Like really and truly. Like, call me ignorant, and there's an element where I won't lie. Like, I think especially for anyone who has sort of gone on the journey of becoming a parent, and you got a house, you're trying to this and the other. I think for the most part, you're kind of just trying to, like, I don't know, you're kind of trying to juggle that and you're trying to suss out what you're kind of what you're trying to do. That there's almost an element where you don't even really have time. Like, I saw there was 2 things I saw. There's one of them, I can't remember what the guy's name was, but he was like he's dressed in a suit, and I think he was standing outside I think it was Big Ben, and he basically is doing like a wrap up of the past sort of, like, since the Tories have been in power, and he's listing off all these things, and I reckon maybe I was aware of about maybe 5 or 10% of them. The rest of and again, a lot of it seemed like fucking like wild shit, but the rest of it I was generally like, I didn't even know. Like, I wasn't even aware, and it wasn't even as if, like, in my day-to-day life, just going to work, coming back, blah blah blah, spending time with my family, this, that, and the other. It didn't even seem as if these things even directly sort of, like, even affected me, for me to even, like, I don't know, to even be aware about it. And I guess, and I think there's another one with, like, George the Poet, where he kind of does this monologue where basically is discussing about, I think one of the points he made was, like, basically you're basically asking us to pick between, like, I guess the lesser 2 evils. Don't quote me on that. They weren't his exact words, but that's the vibe I got from what he said. And I don't think he was saying, don't vote. I think he was saying, I think it's time to, let's find a third option, which I think is a good idea, because I think, like I said, I don't really see the difference between Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak. Like, I don't, honestly, like, it seems to me like now, in fact, the only reason why I'm hearing more about them now was because election time had come around, and now they're trying to, do you know what I mean? They're now trying to sort of get in your good books, and I don't know, and I guess it's always been the same. I mean, you'll get, politicians are always making promises that they may or may not keep, and I think, I don't know. I think one thing that I've noticed is that I think for as long as I can remember, and even when you look back on, like, old footage of years ago, when in the 90s or whatever it was, it's always been a common thing of people complaining about politicians and political parties, making promises that they're not going to keep. And, so even now when people, when people complain about it now and they talk about how bad things are right now, it seems to be that's always been, like that's been consistent in society. And I think wherever it is you live, whether you live in Western culture or, in, or somewhere else, I think that's always been that's one thing we can all relate, we can all sort of, I guess, connect on, in the sense that maybe don't trust politicians. And I guess on some level, I think subconsciously, I had kind of assigned to myself, like, you know what, it seems to me that probably to try and sort of put your trust or put your faith in these politicians or these political parties is probably not the best. It's probably not the best thing to do, because there is no, it's not a sure thing. And it seems like the only thing you can do is to try and get yourself outside of the rat race. Now, I will say this. I think that is, on some level, that is an element of, I guess you could call it selfish to an extent, because I guess what I'm saying is, and when I say get out of yourself out of the rat race, I guess, for lack of a better term, I guess you need to try and sort of make enough money, or try and find a way to both get, financially stable, that the day-to-day fuck-ups that happen, the increases in tax on this and the other, or whatever it is, don't necessarily impact you in the way they would everybody else. Because it seems to me like, and again, I'm not saying that that's the correct approach to take, but it seems to me that's the safest, that's the surest thing you can do, but to basically be like, you know what, if I'm in this rat race and I have to try and hope that these people that I vote for, that I pay my taxes to, are gonna look out for me and have my best interest at heart, they're gonna do what they say they're gonna do. Like if that's, I don't know, I feel like if you go down that route, I think that there's a chance, and so far it seems to me that the trend is that these things, these people never keep the promise that they make, and you kind of just end up with kind of egg on your face, and you kind of, it's a case of, oh, all right, well, let's find the next person. Do you know what I mean? It's a case like I saw the other day that, someone in that Nigel Farage's party was being mad, like mad racist to whoever. And again, that's nothing new. But when you then read this, like Nigel Farage's response, and him, saying, blah, sorry if they don't represent our party, blah, 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 they're going to be kicked out. There's no way you can tell me this, like, oh, we didn't know this guy felt that way. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know, maybe there's an element, it's our fault for, because I don't know, I mean, there's an element where I think there's certain things where you can be like, okay, certain situation be like, okay, you're full of shit. I'm not even going to further engage in discussing anything with you, because you, like, from that one particular act, I can see that you're the sort of person that is out for their own self-interest, and you say anything. But it seems as though it doesn't matter how many sort of examples that we get, whether it was the expenses scandal way back when, and I think even now, I think, these politicians are still claiming mad expenses on whatever sort of shit. I don't know. It's almost as if, I don't know. It seems like there's only, and again, I'm not trying to say that, I'm the guy to, to listen to, in the sense of what you should do, what you shouldn't do. But, and I'll say this, if you don't vote, then of course don't complain, which to be honest, I don't. For the most part, like as I said, I said to myself, the best thing I can do is just try and exit myself out of this rat race. I'm not really a complainer by nature. So it is one of them things, but I will say that if you don't vote, then yeah, there is an element, don't complain about the way things are. Because of course you've done nothing to try and sort of go your way to, to try and make a change. However, that being said, I think if you're asking me to pick between shit or piss, and I don't want either one of those things, but you're telling me, well, that's the only option, then I don't know. Then I think it's a bit, I would say this, I think in that case it's a bit unfair to throw that in people's faces, to be like, well, you didn't vote because, you didn't vote, so shut your mouth. I think there's a case of, I think if there is no, if there isn't like a decent third option, and it is just one is pick between this prick and this prick, and as I said, it seems to me they're both wolves in sheep's clothing. Like there's, you know what I mean? They're I don't know. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I'd love to hear what, like, did you vote? Who did you vote for? And if you didn't vote, like, why? And like, do you know what I mean? In fact, I'd love to get someone on here. In fact, you know, one of the things as well. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't even know. I don't like aside from just sort of talking with my friends and just sort of or my family and just sort of, you know, just discussing things in that kind of way. I don't even know who he's like, who to chat to, in terms of actually making changes within. Does that make sense? Like, I think if you like, they'll take you know, if you want to find out more about, you know, politics or whatever it is and what's going on in your area, you know, speak to your local constituent or whatever it is, or but like, I don't know, man. It seems to me. It just seems to me like, regardless of whether they're in Labour or Conservative, it seems as if they're just politicians, and it's almost a case of like saying, it's like they always come under the same umbrella of just pricks. The same way of like murderers and thieves. They're all, you know, I mean, they're all criminals. It's kind of like that, and it's a case of, you know, who do I chat to? But yeah, I'd love to know, man. Who did you vote for and why? And if you didn't, I'd love to hear why. You know what I mean? But thanks for tuning in. Peace.